So a new rodeo just took place over Memorial Day weekend. It's called the Colorado Stampede. It was in Grand Junction, Colorado, a place that had not seen at least a PRCA rodeo in like 30 years. Laura Mendel joins us. I talked to Kirsten Vold, Laura, and she said that you were kind of the one-woman wrecking crew that made this all happen. And so I thought it'd be fun to talk to you and find out why and how you did it. Welcome, first of all. Thank you for your time. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah. I'm so excited to be here.
Tell me about your weekend.
It was super busy. It went by in a flash. I feel like I can barely remember what even happened. It was super awesome. You know, a bigger crowd than we could have imagined for our first year. We had first class athletes competing all weekend. It was truly incredible.
Josh Frost won the bull riding with an 89. World champion Fallon Taylor won the barrel race. Those are a couple of names that just pop up off the top of my head. So you got the players. You put up a pretty good sized amount of money for a first year rodeo, I thought.
Yeah. I wanted to have an amount that would attract competitors, you know, from everywhere, but not that would bankrupt me. And I just, honestly, I set a goal of how much money I wanted to raise and just grinded really hard to meet that goal.
And you did it in 6 months. Tell me about that.
So previously I was the manager of the Mountain States Circuit Finals Rodeo for 5 years on the outside of Loveland, Colorado. And I moved over here to the Western Slope. I'm from over here, so I moved back over here. And after Circuit Finals ended in October, I was really sad. I didn't have any big rodeo plans going on. And all the people who I'm friends with from Circuit Finals were like, well, why don't you just look into putting on a pro rodeo in Junction? There hasn't been one in years, and it would be awesome. It's a great location. It's very central. And it took me about 2 weeks. I budgeted. I looked into, you know, other rodeos that go on around here. I talked to the CMU rodeo coach, Brandon Edwards, and then I started it November 1st, and here we are.
I'll be darned. Having been involved in the Mountain State Circuit Finals rodeo certainly had to help. You had some contacts.
Oh, for sure. Almost everyone I worked with at Circuit Finals, I hired over here because you know, when you know good, solid people that you work with, that's who you want by your side, especially in your first, you know, your first big event, kind of venturing out on your own. So, you know, Bob Edmonds and Brandy Edmonds, I'd worked with them for the last 5 years, our announcer, music director, and Connor Rowley and Zach Duvall were bullfighters I'd worked with for a long time. Kirsten, she's been a part of the Circuit Finals as well, so I knew I wanted to hire her immediately. And just, you know, just a lot of really great people from the circuit that really helped me put this together.
Yeah, Bob and Brandy are two of my best friends. You can't do any better than Bob.
No, they're the best. I couldn't do rodeo without them.
Yeah. So tell me about the reaction of the community to what was the rodeo history? You hadn't had a rodeo in Grand Junction in a long time. What was the reaction of the community when you went out and started knocking on doors and asking for sponsors and things like that?
Previously, the Colorado Stampede, sorry, someone's at my door, so my dogs are barking. Previously, the Colorado Stampede was put on by the Mesa County Sheriff's Posse from 1957 to 1994. And it was a pro rodeo, I believe, starting around 1968. At least that's what I can find in all the old programs I have. And there is a college rodeo here, the Colorado Mesa University team, like I said earlier, coached by Brandon Edwards, and that's in April. The Colorado Pro Rodeo Association finals used to be held in Grand Junction. They haven't been for quite a few years. And then there is a small CPRA rodeo during their fair in July. So this is the first big pro rodeo for a long time, since 1994. So 30 years, you know, to the year. And the community was super supportive. There were a lot of members of the community who remembered the Colorado Stampede back in the day. Yeah. And so they were excited it was coming back. And then there were a lot of people who are younger who hadn't been to the Stampede prior, who were just excited to have a pro rodeo here.
Yeah. What are the challenges of producing a rodeo? And that may sound like maybe Steve's dumb question in the interview, but even, I mean, I put on a couple in my life and didn't, to be honest, do very well with them. And I just decided I was going to work for other people who were better at it. There is a lot that goes in behind the scenes that nobody ever knows. You were fortunate. You had the experience of the Mountain State Circuit Finals.
Yep.
So you kind of knew what to expect and what needed to be done. But I'm sure that most of the people, maybe even a lot of contestants, don't really understand the challenges that go into producing a rodeo.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. You have to have, the gumption and the kind of mind for it. My biggest struggle was getting sponsors. A lot of businesses are going through a hard time right now, and it's hard to ask them for money, just for this rodeo that hasn't happened in 30 years, and just you don't have the stats to back anything up, and it's a new event and people are unsure of how it's going to go. So that was my biggest struggle for sure. I think I reached out to 450 businesses and I had less than 50 sponsors, and half of them don't even respond anymore. And so it's just trying to navigate businesses here asking for help, their support. The businesses that did sponsor really showed up and they were incredible to work with, and we were very fortunate with the sponsors we did get. Trying to make the area aware of the rodeo so that they did attend. Memorial weekend here is super jam-packed and really busy. There's a big baseball tournament going on. So just making the community aware, and then finding volunteers to help at the rodeo also was a big struggle, but the group we ended up with was really great.
How many people did it take to put this thing on? How do you structure it? Is there like a board of directors, or is,
when I announced I was putting this rodeo on, people shared it on social media that it was happening, and I ended up with 5 members of my executive board that volunteered to be a part of it. One of them was a gal, Kristen, who I've worked with. She was my intern for Circuit Finals for 3 years, so she hopped on board. Tara Carleo was a former Miss Rodeo Colorado from 2006, and she was super excited to have pro rodeo brought to the area, so she hopped right on board. Jerry Mudge was a PRCA judge for a long time, and he still judges other rodeos, so he immediately hopped on board. Joseph Bertard is huge in Grand Junction and just supporting local events, and he has a carriage company here, so he hopped on board. And then Mackenzie Searsma is from the Western Slope Junior Rodeo Association that she started, and she joined our board just because she's super knowledgeable about rodeo in the area. And we also held a junior rodeo on Friday before our rodeo started. And it just kind of branched off from there. People were super excited it was coming back, and they all were excited to be a part of it, and they just wanted to be a part of it, and it was awesome.
Yeah. You said you were surprised at how big the crowds were.
Yeah, I was. Honestly, we weren't sure how many would come, how many people were planning on coming. This area is super well known for buying tickets last minute. So we had a certain number from pre-sales, and they were higher than I thought they'd be, but a lot of people showed up at the door with cash, just deciding to come right then and there. So that was amazing. We weren't expecting that at all. And it was great just to see crowded stands each night. We're awesome. Super grateful for the turnout we had.
So Laura, I have this. Okay, if the other question wasn't Steve's dumb question in the interview, this one is. I'm going to sell that as a sponsorship. Suppose somebody is watching this and they call you up and say, hey, we're thinking of putting on a rodeo for the very first time. We're thinking of putting on a rodeo in a town that hasn't had one in 40 years. What advice would you give?
You have to be realistic with your budget. I told myself I wanted to raise between $80,000 and $100,000 before the rodeo started, and we got to $80,750 by the time it started. So if you want to reach a goal, you have to grind really hard to get there, and just do what it takes. It's really hard trying to, like I said, I reached out to, so many businesses and just didn't hear back from a lot of them. And I over budgeted on everything I was doing. I over budgeted on who I was paying. I over budgeted on costs that I would think of, and even more came up. Catering costs, staffing costs, getting merch, facility costs, everything. You just have to kind of over budget what it's really going to be. And I think that's how you can be realistic. And it's making sure you're not depending on money from ticket sales for the rodeo to be successful.
Yeah.
And that's something Kirsten and I discussed that a lot in the beginning of making sure your rodeo is paid for before it starts.
And so that way, if it rains, if you're outdoors, or if for some reason nobody shows up, you're still not left holding the bag having fundraisers.
Yeah, exactly. And it's you do that to protect yourself and your committee and your business, because this is our livelihood, and it's your name that's on the line, and you just got to make sure it's covered before it even starts.
Yeah. What about next year? You doing it again?
Oh yeah, this is going to be an annual thing. It'll be Memorial Day weekend again next year. We're already booked for the next couple of years at the Mesa County Fairgrounds, so it's happening.
It's got to be really rewarding when it's all said and done, and you've had a chance to decompress for a day or two, to sit back and look around and go, that worked.
Yeah, it's been crazy to see that we pulled it off, and we pulled it off really well. And from what I've seen this morning, just after processing payments and doing all the admin work, I think we actually broke even, which is incredible for a first year. It takes on average 3 years for an event to get there. So super pumped about that.
Yeah. Well, I looked at the results and I went, wait a minute, Colorado Stampede. I honestly don't remember ever hearing of that before. And so I sent Kirsten a text message. I said, was this a new rodeo? And she said, we haven't had it in 30 years. And she was highly complimentary of everything you did and the people around you, Laura. And
she is the best. I never want to work with anyone else but Kirsten. She is amazing to work with.
Well, yeah.
And
in her background and how smart she is, I can see where a lot of people would probably want to say that.
Yeah, she is the best of the best. And I like to tell her that. And I hope she, feels that from us, how grateful we all are that she was a part of this event. And it's funny when you look up Colorado Stampede on the internet, there is no history of it anywhere at all whatsoever, which is crazy. But the Mesa County Sheriff's Posse was really nice, and they kept all the old programs. So I have a lot of the old programs from 1957 to 1994.
Wow. Amazing to bring it back. And it's good that the community received it so well.
Yeah.
Now your biggest challenge is you got to beat what you did this year next year, but you got a whole year to do it.
I was going to say, I have an additional 6 months to get it done. So that honestly takes a lot of stress off.
Yeah. How fast did 6 months go by from November when you decided to do this until, it must have been like, oh, wow, it's here.
Honestly, November was okay. November was just doing a lot of the paperwork and getting our name out there and stuff like that. And December, it was really slow in sponsorships. Obviously, just December is a hard time. And so January was when we really started getting going, and January, February, March, and April just flew by like that. They just were in a blink and it was done. And May just lasted like a week, and that was it.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
See what you're able to do in 2025. Laura, I appreciate your time. Thank you for your patience. Full disclosure, we had some issues, and Laura was very, very nice to me in getting this all done and set up, and I genuinely appreciate it. And I look forward to meeting you in person sometime, Laura.
Yeah, I'll save the day. Memorial weekend, we'll be every year, and the committee is going to start going to the PRCA events, and we'll go to other rodeos, and we'll be at the convention in December and everything. So we're excited to get out there and meet everybody. It'll be awesome.
Awesome. Thank you for your time. Thank you for doing what you
Steve.
do.
I'm so grateful for this. Honestly, this is amazing. Thank you so much.
The people who produce the events in professional rodeo, and there's a reason that I wanted to do this, you don't get near enough credit. You are the backbone of our. You are the reason that people like me and all of the contract people, the stock contractors, all of us are able to make livings. And I just really felt like you needed a shout out for doing something that was done for the very first time and apparently was very successful. And so, Laura, thank you for that.
Thank you, Steve. This has been amazing. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful.
We'll talk later.
Yeah, we'll talk later. Have a good one.